The more you try to please others, the more they take you for granted. You sacrifice for them, yet they see it as nothing but an expectation. But what happens if you take a step back? If you stop chasing those who don't appreciate you? This isn't some mind game. This is how you reclaim your power. Watch until the end to discover what Keanu Reeves shares about how focusing on yourself can completely transform your life. If you're ready to step into the best version of yourself, like, share, and follow now. Have you ever felt like someone no longer values you the way they once did? It's a piercing feeling, isn't it? But what if I told you that with just one small shift, you could completely change the dynamic and leave them wondering what happened? Would you be willing to try? We often find ourselves in relationships where our worth gradually fades into the background. At first, everything is filled with care and affection. But over time, messages go unanswered, conversations become shallow, and you start feeling like an option rather than a priority. It hurts, confuses you, and even makes you furious. But instead of drowning in sadness, you can shift your perspective. What you need is not to beg for attention, but to reclaim your power. Think about it. What would happen if you stopped chasing their attention? If you no longer waited for their messages or tried to impress them? The fascinating thing is when you step back, the space you create might make them realize your true value. Why? Because human nature dictates that we appreciate what we fear losing. Focus on yourself. Invest your time in personal passions. Nurture your mental and physical well-being. When you shine in your own way, not just that person, but the world around you will recognize your allure. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. Confidence, independence, and positive energy will speak louder than words. This isn't about playing mind games. It's about taking control of your own emotions. When you stop seeking validation from others, you start attracting those who genuinely appreciate you. And that is what truly matters. So if someone no longer values you as they once did, don't be disheartened. Step back, focus on yourself, and watch the magic unfold. When someone stops appreciating you, the instinctive reaction is often to try harder, perhaps by being more present, spending more time, or proving your worth in some way. But ironically, the real solution is the exact opposite. The most powerful thing you can do is to take a step back. There's a truth many overlook. The more you chase, the more you lose yourself. When you constantly strive to please someone who no longer values you, you not only exhaust yourself, but also send the wrong message, that your presence is guaranteed, something they don't have to put effort into keeping. Imagine you're a great book, but someone only flips through the first few pages before setting it aside. If you keep pushing yourself into their hands, revealing more chapters without them making an effort to read, your value diminishes in their eyes. But if you pull back, if you let them feel your absence, they may start wondering, start missing you, and start questioning what changed. Stepping back doesn't mean giving up or surrendering. It's a way to reaffirm your worth. When you stop pouring all your energy into pleasing someone, you gain the freedom to focus on yourself, enjoying what makes you happy, growing in ways you desire, and becoming the best version of yourself. And the remarkable thing is, when you truly know your value, others will recognize it too. People tend to value what they feel they could lose. If someone has become accustomed to you always being there, always available, always giving without limits, they might start taking you for granted. But when you withdraw, you create a void, a space that forces them to reconsider. They will wonder why you're no longer waiting, why you've stopped seeking their attention. And in that moment, they will realize your true worth. The key is not to do this as a manipulative tactic or a test. You do this because you deserve to be valued. If someone genuinely cares about you, they will notice the shift and make an effort to reconnect. And if they don't, then at least you've found peace within yourself. So, if someone stops appreciating you, don't panic or despair. Step back, focus on yourself, and see what happens. Perhaps this is the turning point that leads you to recognize your true worth and discover relationships that truly deserve you. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of giving more, you need to learn to withdraw. When you step back, you create space, and in that space, the other person begins to notice your absence. It's human nature. We often overlook what's constantly available to us, but once it's gone, we start to understand its true value. This principle applies not just in love, but also in friendships, family, and even professional relationships. When someone stops appreciating you, the smartest response isn't to try harder, but to shift your focus onto yourself. But remember, stepping back isn't a manipulation tactic. It's an intentional act of redirecting your energy. Instead of worrying about how they treat you, shift your attention to yourself. Spend time doing things that bring you joy, pursue personal growth, follow your passions, and refine your skills. When you become the best version of yourself, you not only elevate your self-worth, but also naturally draw people toward you. They will start noticing your confidence, independence, and inner strength. And when that happens, the power dynamic will shift. Another crucial factor is setting clear boundaries. When someone stops valuing you, the answer is not to chase them or tolerate poor treatment. You have the right to decide who deserves to be in your life and who doesn't. Your worth is not determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. When you set boundaries, you don't just protect your self-respect. You also send a clear message that your presence is not a given, but a privilege. By stepping back, focusing on yourself, and establishing firm boundaries, you don't just reclaim your worth, you create a magnetic force. Those who truly value you will return, while those who don't deserve you will fade away. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself. When someone no longer values you, the natural response for many is to try harder, perhaps by being more present, proving their worth, or doing everything possible to maintain the relationship. But here's the surprising truth. The real solution lies in the opposite direction. The most powerful thing you can do is take a step back. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of giving more, you need to learn how to give less. When you step back, you create space, and in that space, the other person will begin to notice your absence. It's human nature. We often take for granted what is always there, but the moment it disappears, we realize its true value. This principle applies not just to romantic relationships, but also to friendships, family dynamics, and even professional relationships. But stepping back does not mean playing mind games or manipulating someone. It's about redirecting your energy. Instead of focusing so much on how others treat you, focus on yourself. Invest time in what makes you happy, grow as a person, and prioritize your own well-being. When you become the best version of yourself, you naturally command attention. People begin to notice your confidence, independence, and strength. And that's when the dynamic begins to shift. More importantly, you must establish boundaries. When someone stops valuing you, it may be because they have crossed an emotional line that you never clearly defined. This is the time to show through your actions what you will and will not tolerate. When others see that you respect yourself enough to set limits, they are forced to make a choice. Either step up to meet your worth or walk away. And trust me, no matter the outcome, you will come out victorious. Here's the most remarkable part. Once you take a step back and focus on yourself, something incredible happens. The person who once took you for granted will either realize their mistake and try to reconnect, or they will disappear entirely, making room for those who genuinely appreciate you. Either way, you are in control of the situation. So remember, the best way to handle someone who no longer values you is not to chase after them, but to create distance and focus on your own growth. Because in the end, people cherish what they fear losing. I once believed that as long as I tried hard enough, as long as I gave enough, I would eventually be appreciated. But life doesn't always work the way we expect. I used to put others first, striving to please everyone, thinking that if I were kind enough, sincere enough, and patient enough, they would recognize my worth. But then I realized that if I continued down that path, I would always be just a shadow in my own life. The awakening didn't come from a sudden revelation or a dramatic turning point. It came from the little things, the moments when I was exhausted yet still forced to smile, the times I sacrificed my own time to help someone else only to be met with indifference. It came from an emptiness I felt when I realized I had lost myself in the pursuit of validation from people who didn't truly care. So I started to change, not by blaming or resenting others, but by gradually putting myself first. I learned to say no to unreasonable demands, to walk away from relationships that only drained me. At first, it was difficult. I worried about losing people, about being seen as selfish. But then I understood those who truly valued me wouldn't leave just because I started protecting myself. And when I stopped holding on to things that weren't meant for me, new doors opened. I had time to rediscover myself, to rekindle old passions. I learned to play an instrument I had always wanted to but never made time for. I took trips I had never dared to embark on alone. I joined personal development courses, met like-minded people who brought positive energy into my life instead of just taking from it. These changes didn't happen overnight, and the journey wasn't always easy. There were moments of loneliness, times when I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. But then I would remember how I used to feel, desperately trying to please others, yet never truly happy. And I knew I could never go back to being that person. Now, I no longer fear being left behind because I know I'm on the right path. I no longer cling to relationships that don't serve me because I trust that the right people will stay. I no longer seek validation from others because I have found my own worth. Instead of trying to please everyone, I dedicate time to my own growth. I began by taking care of my health, running every morning, feeling my breath fill my lungs, the sweat trickling down like a symbol of my own rebirth. I practiced yoga to restore balance, allowing my body and mind to heal from past emotional wounds. I also spent time reading, exploring new philosophies of life, drawing inspiration from stories of people who had fallen but risen stronger. Books reminded me of how vast the world is and that I didn't need to confine my life to a relationship that no longer added value. I pursued hobbies I had never explored before. I joined an art class where I could pour my emotions onto canvas. I took a cooking course, not to impress anyone, but to treat myself to delicious meals as an act of self-love. I expanded my social circle, attending gatherings and connecting with people who share my interests. I realized that when I focused on positive things, I attracted people who truly valued me. Deep conversations, hearty laughter with new friends, they made me understand that I didn't need the approval of those who no longer saw my worth to feel fulfilled. And then, something magical happened. When I stepped out of my comfort zone, when I stopped chasing people who no longer valued me, I started to grow in ways I had never imagined. I became more confident, stronger, and most importantly, happier. The people who once took me for granted began to notice my absence. But by then, I was no longer waiting for them. I had found my own worth. I became more vibrant, more joyful. I indulged in self-care, cherishing and prioritizing myself. Even my career took a positive turn, free from trivial worries. I became more productive and creative. I started pitching ideas fearlessly, no longer afraid of rejection or judgment. Over time, I gained recognition from colleagues and superiors, but what mattered most was that I was proud of myself. Real friendships emerged, not just superficial connections, but relationships that brought peace and sincerity. We shared conversations filled with laughter, moments of genuine understanding. I finally felt surrounded by people who appreciated me for who I was, not for what I could do for them. The truth is, when you stop trying to prove your worth to the wrong people, you make space for the right ones to enter your life. And that is the most liberating realization of all. And most importantly, I have learned to love myself. I no longer need someone else to validate my worth because I know I deserve happiness. I know I am strong enough to walk alone when necessary. And I also understand that when I love myself the right way, the world will respond with its best. Life always gives us signals. The question is whether you're willing to listen. When you stop chasing those who don't appreciate you and start focusing on yourself, everything changes. You will realize that your worth has never depended on someone else's recognition, but on how you treat yourself. Dare to step back to move forward. Dare to let go to embrace what truly belongs to you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If this resonated with you, leave a comment below, share your story, or simply write, "I choose myself." And don't forget to like and share to spread this message to those who need it. If you want to continue your journey of self-discovery and growth, Subscribe now so you won't miss the next videos. See you on the inspiring journeys ahead.